but then the Hecarim comes through, so we're not going to get those Hecarim plays like we did from the French team. Was it the French team? No, the French team. So no Hecarim today, but is that going to be first game?
I mean, we asked for it the whole yesterday. Finally, we get it. We were asking for this for the whole of yesterday, but I think, as you mentioned, with Hecarim and Lilia being banned away, the jungle champion pool does get thinned out quite a bit in terms of what junglers are stronger. Yone as well, also getting banned out, also could play in the jungle. But Viego, we kind of hyped him up a bit yesterday with how strong he can be, especially after the huge bust that he got in the most recent patch. I think this champion is super fun to play, has so much playmaking potential, and hey, what's not fun about stealing someone's soul? What's not fun about stealing a Nautilus soul and being able to hook someone towards you? So really excited to see how the Spanish team is going to be picking up this champion.
Yeah, it kind of makes you think that you have to play like a second mind game on the side of the red team. Now it's like, who should we pick, but whose soul is not going to be OP enough that we're going to be completely like shooting ourselves in the foot here with that Viego. I suppose they just got to really try and like focus and just run down Viego, just make sure he doesn't get anywhere near as powerful as he needs to be. But we're seeing the Yasuo come through here as well. Ornn is a classic Wexic pickup. We do see Wexic play the Ornn quite frequently, and we saw Ornn come through yesterday, and it was quite a advantage for one of the teams with that team knockup, again being able to supply items in lane as well. And then throwing it over to Vapo's side, we see Kaiser coming through and Vladimir as well. So again, Vladimir we'd normally sometimes see mid, but can also be played in the Baron lane as well. Quite a few flex picks on the side there. Even Kaiser could be mid.
Yeah, exactly. A few flex picks, I think, on either side as well, especially with like Yasuo. Yasuo could probably go mid or top as well. You can also try and, flex the Ornn if you really want to. As you mentioned, though, I think Ornn is definitely a lot stronger as a support right now. We saw kind of the flexibility and what the Ornn can offer in terms of team fights and crowd control and everything as well. Zeri and Ziggs being banned away with Lee Sin and Camille as well. So a few Dragon Laners being banned away. The Camille and Lee Sin are probably trying to whittle down the champion pool of the junglers ever so slightly. This Nautilus also could be a flex pick. Can also be played in the jungle as well. You can play it. It's kind of this full AP one-shot tool, or you can play him as a tank as well. So it kind of really depends on what Vapo wants to pick as this fourth option. Renekton pretty much guarantees that Vladimir is going to be in this mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, Vapo is stealing Cordoba's mascot because a lot of their assets seem to be of crocodiles, and we see that they have stolen Renekton off of them. So let's see how Vapo do with this Renekton. Again, can synergize pretty well with the likes of Nautilus having that single target CC as well, especially when you're trying to focus either the likes of the Yasuo, keeping him pinned down. But we're seeing a lot of like close quarter combat champions on the side of Cordoba as well. So the Viego, you got Yasuo as well as Jax and Ornn. So we're really lacking a bit of range here. So it's clear that this ADC needs to be one that can hold his own, and they're going to go for the Varus. We were a bit unsure with the Varus yesterday. We've been such an immobile kind of ADC, but played very well, has the chains of corruption to be able to potentially lock down and shut down the likes of Renekton as well. So we'll see how Cordoba pick up this Varus and play it.
Yeah, I'd really like a Xin Zhao now on the side of Vapo. We saw it yesterday, how well Xin Zhao can do against all these melee champions. It's exactly what you were talking about. Every single champion, pretty much, except for Varus, is a melee champion, and Xin Zhao works great for that. It is going to be Volibear, though. Volibear's still a champion that can perform very well. But yeah, on both sides, I think we have just a lot of bruisers, a lot of kind of tanks as well to kind of be that front line. And I think it's going to be all down to this Varus and Kaiser as to kind of who can be the main carry. We do have the likes of like Yasuo and Vladimir that can kind of be that secondary carry, but the range that the Kaiser has, the range that the Varus has with the auto attacks, is going to be really important, especially in these sort of team fights.
Definitely. I mean, being the only single source of range damage, you're going to assume that both of these teams are going to have these great front lines here, just waiting to make the engages very dramatic in a way, because you got the likes of Volibear being able to dive in. We've seen the with Renekton with the dash in, but also flashing in with the dash to then obviously solo CC or one of the enemy champions. And then you got the likes of Nautilus. If they're unlucky enough on the side of Cordoba, they may get hooked on with the dredge line, and then the ultimate may come through that may be aimed on the back line and can knock up multiple people. But then you have it to Vladimir, who has massive sustain on the side of Vapo. So again, there's a lot to cut through, but they do have the Yasuo on the side of Cordoba as well. And Jax, as we saw yesterday, is just a split lane pushing force. If he's left alone, you're pretty much going to say goodbye to your lane as well.
Exactly that. It's going to be an exciting first game. I mean, I'm excited just to see Viego. I mean, we saw and we were kind of like drawing the teams on, just like, come on, you know, you want to pick it. I don't think it was picked or banned at all yesterday. We saw the likes of Hecarim being banned quite a lot and also picked. Lilia got banned quite a lot. Same with Lee Sin being picked, but we never seen this Viego, and I just really love the playmaking potential that this champion can bring out as well. And I'm looking at the champions that he can kind of steal on the other side in terms of the souls, you know, the likes of Renekton being able to dash, the likes of Nautilus for the hook as well. I mean, there are so many champions that you have the potential of probably being able to carry the game by yourself as well. But we're just going to be waiting a few minutes before we get into the game. Of course, we have to wait for that little bit of a 3-minute delay to make sure there's no little sneaky stream sniping happening with any of these teams, to make sure no one's watching the stream at all. Yeah, going to be pretty exciting.
Very exciting indeed. Are we actually going to see those supports go up into the Baron lane like we saw one match of yesterday, which used to be a huge meta in the EMEA region, where it was just kind of like predictable to the point where every match started, it was kind of like, you know what, we're going to see them supports go up into the Baron lane, and they're probably going to stay there for a little while. Admittedly, though, they didn't stay as long as they used to. I think that's just because, obviously, with the ADCs being prone to ganked by the junglers as well, it's kind of like you don't want to sacrifice your carry to be a victim, especially to the likes of Jin Zhao that we saw yesterday. It was performed very well by Bambi. So again, you kind of just had to rotate those supports back down into their desired lanes. But I think the Kaiser and the Varus matchup could be easily left alone in their lane, whereas the Yasuo and Vladimir could struggle, just depending on how well timed the Sanguine pools from Vladimir come through as well. I think that's the main sort of like mechanic of Vladimir when you're going against these these close-quartered champions on the side of Cordoba, is that you've got to kind of just make sure you're using Sanguine Pool to its best, to its most optimal usage as well. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they navigate the whole of the rift with these teams. But then you have massive titans like Volibear and Renekton able to jump over the jungle walls, steal the camps as well. So Volibear being a notorious jungle objective stealer. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Viego pairs and tries to counter that aggressive but almost predictable steals from the Volibear.
Oh yeah, definitely being able to jump over the wall and everything like that as well. I'm actually just trying to, keep an eye as we're waiting as well on the other semi-final that is happening at the moment. I unfortunately don't know what the score is, but they're currently in the middle of their game, which seems like their series has lasted quite a long time. So maybe they're currently 1-1 and they're in their third game at the moment. But that game's looking pretty even as well. I mean, we got two really strong sides on the other side of the semi-final bracket as well. I mean, this will be good for us to see how well these two teams are, the Spanish and the CIS team, to kind of compare how strong they are compared to, the French and the Turkish roster that we saw yesterday, because it seems like both these teams in the top side of the bracket are very closely matched, and we'll have to see, what other team is going to be in that semi-final with this series.
Yeah, I think just to sort of continue on that same sentiment, I think that 4JV played a bit more of a cleaner game yesterday compared to Subsidiary. There was a few little bit of crucial mistakes that we saw, and we picked up on the cast as well, is that it wasn't as clean as 4JV in that whole best of the whole two matches that that team played against Requiem. They were definitely a formidable force and an absolute unit of a team, especially with their roster containing the like of Hestes. But if Cordoba win this one, we'll see very familiar faces on both of the teams, because they're Draco, Wexic, Blaster, even the likes of Jemmy and Enrique up in the top lane. So a roster that I'm very familiar with on the side of Cordoba, and again on the side of VapoINT. Not quite as many familiar faces, obviously Susano and No, but that's it.
Yeah, definitely a few new faces. I mean, definitely going to be interesting to see if they can kind of, I guess, deal with the pressure that the Spanish side is going to bring. And that pressure has already happened here at level 1. The flash has to be used already by this Kai'Sa. And you can see the playmaking potential already that this Ornn can bring out. That quick and easy knock-up, the Glacial Augment, making it so difficult for that Kai'Sa to escape, forcing out the flash this early on. And it's going to be difficult now because that Kai'Sa really needs to play defensive, because if she gets caught by one more knockup by this Ornn, then that's going to be dead meat for that Kai'Sa.
Dead meat for Kai'Sa. We don't want that. We don't. I mean, we do want some first blood, and we could potentially get it up in this Baron lane. However, the slippery, scaly crocodile that is Renekton manages to get away from Enrique in that Baron lane. But again, it's still a not as ploddy as yesterday's early game. We're seeing a little bit of an even early game performance from both of these teams, it seems. Yes, Vim is behind ever so slightly in gold, but is it a massive deficit? Not at all. And in this game, I mean, if you had a massive deficit in the early game, you'd be doing something completely wrong. But again, it's just all brewing up, trying to get those first items. It's maxing out that whichever skill you are prioritizing on these champions, just to aid a easier jungle objective team fight for when these Drakes and the Rift Heralds come up.
Yeah, a few champions going back to base, just trying to buy a few items here. You can see the Ornn already using his passive to try and help out himself and also his team to get the little bit of extra stats. But we saw a little bit yesterday as well about like how kind of passive the early game can be. You know, I think one of our games yesterday, we didn't get a first blood until 5 minutes, which is very rare to see in a fast-paced game like Wild Rift. But sometimes that's just how the teams want to play. They just want to farm up, as you mentioned. They want to try and play around these objectives. And when it comes to these objectives as well, I think it's going to be very, very even, because if we look at the ultimates on either side of these two teams, there are definitely a lot of great ultimates, and one of them's been used already in this bot lane with the Varus, and is 1 HP and does actually go down in the end. Really good flash by the Kai'Sa to knock up, jump away from the Ornn knockup. But I think one more auto attack's going to do it in the end. It's a double kill for the support, the playmaker Ornn himself.
Yeah, Wexic putting some respect on his name as that Ornn King, as we've been seeing him. Very familiar with that pick, and is showing that he's clearly practiced it even more and honed the Ornn pick even more, as well as we see that those 2 kills go up to the Spanish team already. So 2 up from Vim here, and 2 potential suspecting victims in the Baron lane. Up here is Queenie and Castadinada. I'm even not even gonna try and say names, because I'll just die of cringe. But Renekton anyway didn't die, but they survived.
Yeah, they had to stay underneath the tower, though. Quinny had to be there to kind of protect the Renekton and make sure that he can go back to base, but he's going to lose a few minions in this Baron lane. But you're seeing how defensive kind of the bot lane need to play around this Ornn, because the thing is, when you're playing against Ornn support, is you can't stand against the wall because he can just knock you up. You can't really stand in the middle of the lane either, because he can just use his first ability and knock up straight away anyway. And then it just becomes extremely difficult to try and deal with. And you're seeing at the moment how strong it can be. First objectives are going to spawn in about 20 seconds time. Both teams trying to rotate already. Flash has to be used there by Draco. He does have the Hex Flash though, so he should be okay in the long run. That is going to be on cooldown for a little bit. The knockup nearly landing there from Wexic. And you can see already that And this Spanish side really want to try and get that mid lane priority around the objectives, and both teams looking to try and play around their Rift Heralds.
Yes, a few lane swap ups here. So we see that Jax has gone down to fight Vladimir down in the duo lane, and Yasuo has gone to go 1v1 with Renekton up in the Baron lane as they try to set up what could potentially be a successful Rift Herald execution here. But there we go. Down goes the Nautilus as well as the Volibear. So 2 souls goes over to Viego, and they're not done yet. Renekton goes down thanks to the Jax. So Enrique picking up a first kill on the board for himself on the side of Team Spain. And you cannot spell Spain without pain, and that middle lane game definitely felt some pain.
Really well played there. Again, you know, Wexic is the playmaker in this scenario. You know, the Nautilus stepping up a little bit too far, getting knocked up by the Ornn. And you could just see the chain CC that they have, the knock up from the Ornn into the ultimate from the Yasuo, and then the chain of corruption as well. The Nautilus couldn't move. The Nautilus couldn't flash, couldn't do anything. And again, he's going in for another play in this mid lane. Wexic is just completely smurfing with this champion right now. They're going to use that Rift Herald in the mid lane, and they're going to look to try and secure this tower. It should go down as well, and they can move straight towards this dragon. This early game is being dominated right now by Team Spain.
Yeah, it's definitely not sharing the same sentiment as I was saying in about 2-minute mark, how the early game was pretty much very settled. It seemed very fair. But then we saw that double kill come on the board. But we may see a kill come on the board here with the 2v1. But Ornn is coming around here to support Enrique as well and manages to keep Jax alive. But is it going to be enough to keep him alive now that the Ornn comes through, as well as Nautilus and Kaiser on the other side? So it is a 4v1 currently.
Oh, nice
now,
flash.
Varus and Viego come through to help Wexic in his time of need, and that was a fantastic little 4v2 under the turret to try and take Enrique down, and they managed to do it.
Yeah, really nice plays to try and shut down this Jax. They realize that they're falling really far behind this game, so they need to kind of group up. They need to try and find these isolated champions at the moment, because if they try and fight in these 3v3, well, 4 versus 4 scenarios, they know that they are so far behind. You know, the Varus, you're looking at the goal lead at the moment, is looking pretty much uncontrollable at this point. Gone for Wit's End as the first item, which is definitely a very interesting choice. You don't normally see Wit's End as the first item, but it kind of makes sense. You know, Kaiser does quite a bit of AP damage, especially if you're going for the AP build. Nautilus, not Nautilus, sorry. The Vladimir as well, also doing AP damage, as well as the Volibear as well. And I'm looking at the boots as well on the CIS side. Play to still caps, play to still caps, play to still caps, play to still caps. There is a lot of AD damage on the side of the Spanish squad, so that kind of doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, they must have had a sale on the shop with those plated steel caps, because they're definitely all rocking them, just as if there was like Air Jordans or something. But like, as you said, there's a lot of attack damage on the side of the Team Spain here, but there is some pain coming through onto the side of Vim. Here again, the Renekton getting taken down. We have that double anti-health item on the side of Cordoba as well, just to negate all that health that the likes of the Volibear and Nautilus get as well. So I think that's a great first pickup item for both the Viego and Jax coming through there. But now they're starting to build a little bit of anti-heal to encounter the Vladimir when they come through with that engage, because currently right now Vladimir has been pretty much a solo bolo down in the bot lane. He is pretty much having a one-man party and trying to get some sort of like lane domination down there, but it just doesn't look like Yasuo is giving him the room to breathe. He's always down there cutting off the minion waves just before he can get a lead.
Yeah, at this point, Vladimir can't really join the team fights. I think it's very difficult. That's why Vladimir is kind of at the farthest point of the map to where the rest of the action is currently happening. You kind of need this Vladimir to get at least 2 or even 3 items to be able to become that late game carry. And Vladimir is one of the only champions that can kind of stop all this crowd control from coming down thanks to his Sanguine Pool. If he can time that really perfect in this game and is able to do incredibly well, then maybe there's an opportunity for this Vladimir to carry. But Viego stepping up a little bit too far here, has to use the flash away and just needs to be a little bit careful there. But as you mentioned, you know, both Viego and Jax going for the Divine Sunder against this tanky squad of the CIS means that they're going to be able to do a little bit more damage and also get a bit of healing as well for themselves.
Yep, the builds are all there. We see a little bit of a frontal assault in the Baron lane. Jax pushing those and marching those minions toward that second tier turret. But it looks like Renekton is not going to be able to recall back just yet, because if he does, that Baron lane turret goes down, unfortunately. So Renekton having to be forced to stay in his place to do his duty as the enemy Baron lane to keep that second tier turret alive. But 40 seconds, sorry, until the Infernal Dragon is up. We already see that Team Spain managed to pick up the first Drake, which was the Mountain Drake. So will they manage to secure another Drake in the pocket is yet to be seen. We see Jax already having that fantastic damage already. So that's like 2 hits from Jax, and Renekton's already down to half health, so this champion is really, really painful on the side of Cordoba.
Yeah, already has that 1,500 gold lead, and normally that gold lead you'd kind of want on the other way around if you are playing Renekton, because Renekton is this kind of early game bully, especially with the rune-like empowerment, you know, trying to go for the huge burst damage, trying to win in this early game. But this early game has just gone all too wrong, really, for the CIS squad, and you can see that they can't even contest this dragon. They are nowhere near it, and that means that the Spanish squad are now going to be on soul point. One more dragon for them, and they're able to get the Mountain Soul, which is going to give them a whole help in terms of extra shielding and extra tankiness to try and stop this burst damage from coming through here from the CIS squad. But I think it's going to be very difficult for them right now to come back, because you're looking at the gold lead, 8,000 gold lead right now for the Spaniards.
Yes, they are running away with a goal, just like historically running away with a lot of gold there. Spain are, even with the kills, there's not many kills on the board, but it just seems to be showing that the efforts that all this Team Spain is going through to farm up, acquire the gold, just to further these team fights in their favors. There's just a lot of farming, tempos going completely in their direction as well. Everything is playing very well for the side of the blue team. However, I feel like Vim could come back. I think it just takes a solid team fight. But like you said, if they manage to procure another Drake, they will get the Mountain Drake, which obviously offers shield. But right now, it doesn't look like they necessarily need it. With only 1 kill on the board, they are able to slip out of these team fights, and they're able to slip in and create a mega rift within the Vim team. And it's clearly working currently. They don't need any extra shields, but any freebies is a good B.
And they'll take the extra shielding because you still have a lot of burst damage. You know, the Vladimir is currently at 2 items. The Kaiser is now at 2 items as well. So both them champions can do a lot of damage. And I think this CIS squad is definitely relying on this Kaiser to do work, and also this Vladimir, because they're the 2 champions that have so much gold. I mean, you're looking at the rest of the map. The jungle is quite far behind. Also, the top laner as well, also quite far behind. And it makes it extremely difficult in this scenario to try and make this work out. Blue buff is going to be given here. Oh, I thought it was going to be given to Varus, but he got yoinked away there by the Jax. So no blue buff there for Varus, unfortunately, as champion that kind of likes a blue buff, so he can poke a little bit more often. But you can see at the moment that this Spanish squad are just looking to try and pressurize around these objectives and make sure that really the Vim cannot move out of their own jungle. And you can see the Volibear is doing just that at the moment, just to try and get some vision and clear some vision around this Baron. Because if they don't have any vision of this Baron, you know, this Spanish roster can definitely do a lot with their damage. They have a lot of burst damage for this Baron. But you can see that, like, Vim can't move out of their own jungle. It's just way too difficult. And here comes the play.
Yep, they're pretty much locked down to a very designated area because they don't have any of their first tier turrets up at the moment, and lack of vision in their jungle as well. You can kind of see dotted around 1 or 2 pieces of vision on the side of the red team, but even blue's team's got a slice of the pie. And speaking of slice of the pie, there's that double knock from Wexic, and then we have Yasuo going in as well. The only thing keeping Nautilus alive was that status, but for not much longer. We see a double kill come from Blaster on the Yasuo in that mid lane. Jack sleeping in as well. We see another status coming through, but it's not going to be enough for the Volibear. And then Varus picks up the team ace there, taking down the Kaiser in the final moments of that team fight in the Baron lane. This just opens up that Baron Nashor even more. It's a freebie now.
Wexit is just completely popping off in these fights. Again, the two-man knock-up into the Yasuo ultimate. It just makes Yasuo's life so much easier. If you have these extra knock-ups that can be that can help you try and get your ultimate off, try and deal that extra bit of damage. But every single time Wexit goes in for the plays, his team follows up afterwards as well. And the synergy for this roster right now is just completely insane. When one person goes in, the rest of the team follows up straight afterwards, and that's exactly what you need in this game. As now they're going to get another pick here in the mid lane, another ultimate here from Wexit, going to be trying to go down. Oh guys, the dashes into it, the knock up into the Yasuo ultimate, and it's just all too easy right now for the Spanish squad. And they're going to look to try and push down mid. Hey, they might not even need the soul at this point. They might be able to just finish this game right here, right now.
Absolutely. I think they're regretting all buying plated steel caps now that we see that Varus is building that AP kit there. So there is no magic resistance on the side of Vim, but I don't think that is the detriment to themselves. It just seems to be that everything's working very well for Cordoba in this game one, and they look like they're going to retreat to go and get that soul, because why not? You have got the enemy pushed in that mid lane all the way up until the inhibitor has been taken down as well. So they just can't afford any time to be away from that base. And they have to try and keep those minions away, because now they have focused and gained the Mountain Dragon Soul. So they seemed unkillable before. To Vim, they're going to be even harder to kill going into these next conflicts.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time now for Vim. Just that they have to kind of expect a miracle. But to be honest, the miracle has come out from this Ornn into this game. This pick has been such a huge playmaking tool here for, I keep forgetting their name, Cordoba? Did you say Cordoba? Is that Cordoba, how you say it? I hope that's how we say it. I don't know. I don't know Spanish, so I don't even know what Cordoba. I'll have to do some Google. I'll have to do some Google translation after this to see what it actually means. But yeah, I mean, this pick from Ornn has just been so huge, and you can see right now that they're just trying to push down in this bot lane. They still have the Baron buff for a little bit longer, but I think that's just going to be going off just about now, as the Baron buff is spawning again in another 30 seconds. The Elder Drake as well, and to be honest, at this point, Cordoba can just play passive. They don't need to go super aggressive. They don't really need to play around these objectives. They can just play towards the Baron, play towards that Elder Drake, secure these big major late game objectives, and then look for the win afterwards.
Looking for the win afterwards, as we will be looking for the translation for Cordoba after this game. But the Elder Dragon is up in 2 seconds as well. I mean, it'd be such a Hail Mary play if Volibear can steal it, but it doesn't look like the Volibear is going to be alive, because it's just knock up central on the red side. Blue buff here. Again, down goes the Volibear, so there is going to be no Hail Mary play around the Elder Dragon as well. 2 statuses coming through, but it's not going to be enough for to stay alive. He goes down. There is a 1 trade. Actually, they get a 2nd kill on the board, but it's just not going to be enough for Vim and the Cis region here, as they rock up the minions to the crystal at the game ending play here from Cordoba, and it's just not going to be enough for Nautilus to do anything. It's game over.
Brilliant play in the end. Again, the knockup plays from the Ornn. And you know what's crazy about this game as well? We'll see on the stats that there were no deaths in the jungle, in the mid lane, in the ADC, and in the support role in the end. There were no deaths at all. Look at that. You're seeing all of that. Just no deaths at all. 3-0-15 for this Ornn. 17 kill participation out of 18 kills. This Ornn was everywhere on the map. And if I was the CIS squad, I would ban away this Ornn in an instant in this next game, because the Ornn just gave so much playmaking potential and gave so much setup for the rest of his team. You know, the knockups for the Yasuo, the knockups that the rest of his team couldn't follow. And then you have the chain of corruption on top of that as well, just making it so difficult for anyone on the CIS roster to even run around or move around or rotate at all during these team fights. And overall,